Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Fraser Jackson. Here are the stories making headlines this evening. As the war in Sudan enters its third month, the country's health system has all but collapsed. We'll hear more from the Red Cross and bring you a report on how school children are managing to sit their exams despite the fighting. An Niger court is poised to decide whether or not to allow a uranium mining company to start operations after it came to light that they had produced a flawed environmental impact report. We'll have more from our correspondent. And we'll show you the Beninese startup bringing the latest technology to everyday items such as bags, wallets and ties. But first, as the war in Sudan enters its third month, the country's health system is on its knees. Already struggling before the conflict broke out, dozens of clinics have closed their doors and patients are waiting and going without life-saving medicine. Dialysis patients are dying, unable to get the treatment they need, and bodies are starting to rot as they pile up in the country's overrun morgues. Multiple ceasefires have done nothing to blunt the conflict, with US and Saudi-led mediation efforts flatlining. Patrick Youssef is the Africa Director for the International Committee of the Red Cross.
Hospitals that we are able to talk to are telling us there are complete outages of electricity, no food even for the staff and for the patients. So again, according to the Ministry of Health and the WHO, talking about only 20% of hospital capacities left in the capital, Khartoum, and we've heard very, very sad stories about patients dying just because they're unable to receive the required medical care. Sometimes because there's lack of personnel, doctors are just unable to go and be next to the patients they're supposed to treat, or indeed the lack of material. There is also a possibility that healthcare may collapse in Sudan at any moment, despite all the best efforts of Sudanese doctors and nurses who are really heroic, who have done all their best and continued working in extremely difficult conditions. Health facilities and health centers have truly to be protected. Here we're talking about a life or death situation. This is an imperative that both parties have truly to abide by the laws of international humanitarian laws and principles to protect these critical infrastructure and provide them the space to be well equipped and indeed resourced enough to treat and care for the civilian population.
Well, the United Nations says that the conflict in Sudan has forced over 2 million people to flee for safety. The disruption caused by the violence has upended many people's lives. But in the city of Port Sudan, those pupils who fled are being allowed to sit their school exams. So far, over 13,000 have taken up the offer. Carolyn Lamberley reports.
Still clutching their exam instructions, students at the Comboni school in Port Sudan breathed a sigh of relief. Many of them came all the way from Khartoum. They were forced to flee nearly 2 months ago.
When the war started, I was at home. Everything was fine until after Eid. Then the fighting intensified. That's when we came to Port Sudan. On our way, we came across the army and then the rapid support forces. In Port Sudan, the electricity is stable and I was able to sit my exams. It was very easy.
When the war started, we came here to the Red Sea State. The exam was very easy. I just focused on the questions. And when you do that, exams are very easy.
Across the coastal city, which has remained relatively peaceful, more than 13,000 students from the capital sat exams this week. Here at the Comboni school, the number was around 800. It's the beginning of some normalcy, but for displaced families from Khartoum, all they can think about is going back home.
This is an appeal to the two forces. We citizens are powerless. I appeal to the international community to intervene if the two sides don't resolve anything.
more than 2 million people have fled their homes since fighting broke out in mid-April. Of that number, nearly 530,000 have crossed to neighboring countries.
Let's take a look at some other stories coming out of the continent this evening. A suspected jihadist attack has killed 8 Kenyan policemen in the eastern region of Garissa. The officers died when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device believed to belong to the Al-Shabaab terror group based in neighbouring Somalia. 2 days after a deadly boating accident in northern Nigeria, the death toll now stands at 106. Police and villagers were still rescuing people on Wednesday after a boat filled with people coming back from a wedding capsized. Almost 150 people have been saved from the disaster. Boat accidents are commonplace in rural parts of Nigeria where improper maintenance and overloaded vessels are rife. But Monday's accident was one of the deadliest in recent years. And a final batch of South African firefighters have wrapped up their training as they prepare to set off for Canada. Pretoria has sent over 200 firemen to North America as Canada grapples with one of its worst wildfire seasons in years. Almost 20,000 square miles of forest have gone up in flames across the country, with the smoke spilling over into the continental United States. In 2019, Canada and South Africa signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at assisting each other in case of emergencies regarding veld and forest fires. Well, despite the danger, many of the firefighters are excited about the trip, as fewer than 20 of them that chosen have ever been abroad. Anger is growing in Niger, and it's directed at the Dassa mining company. They stand accused of producing a flawed environmental impact study, and now a court in Niamey will decide whether they will stop their operations. Harold Gerard sent us this report.
In Agadez, the Canadian uranium giant Global Atomic is facing strong opposition from the local community. A group of organizations has filed a complaint against its subsidiary in Niger, the Dassa mining company, also known as Somida. Somida is accused of not following the rules for its environmental impact study. This document is required to assess the impact of uranium extraction on both nature and human lives.
We don't necessarily want them to leave the country or cease their operations. We want to work together under better conditions. This includes safeguarding the environment and providing work opportunities for younger generations.
Last February, the Agadez court ordered the suspension of Somida's activities until a new environmental study is put together. However, the Tahua Court of Appeals revoked this decision just 2 weeks later. Now, activists anxiously await the decision of the higher judicial body, the High Court of Niamey. But another suspension of the company's operations would not be welcome news for everyone.
Stopping Dassa doesn't benefit anyone. There are many people here in Agadez, in Alit, who are unemployed.
As a former employee of Cominac, Niger subsidiary of the French group Orano, Sada Foula is well aware of the long-term dangers of uranium extraction.
I have witnessed it myself. You see people in their homes, and then suddenly they claim it's contaminated. But how did it become contaminated? Either it was the soil from the industrial zone, or it was the scrap metal bought from the area. My neighbor lived in his house for 25 years, but 3 years before the Cominac closure, they told him his house was polluted.
The Dassa mining company, along with the Global Atomic Group, claims to have followed the required procedures to conduct a valid study. For now, the company management has not responded to our interview request.
And finally, a startup in Benin is bringing the latest technology to everyday items such as ties, bags and wallets. Showcasing at the VivaTech conference here in Paris, they're implementing NFC technology to turn ordinary things into useful accessories. Priscilla Olympio tells us more.
These animal skins are in high demand for customers of this young Beninese entrepreneur who takes advantage of the natural beauty to turn them into high-end connected devices.
We have a client who wants wallets made out of snakeskin. This order comes from Nigeria, and we have another order for hyena skin wallets in Dubai.
Delano Kiki, a former financier, created the startup IOTA So last year. The company is the first to take the technology used in contactless bank cards and apply it to everyday objects for data transfer.
The tie can be in Los Angeles. I am in Abidjan, and I can change the information contained in that tie without necessarily interacting directly and physically with it. That's the innovation, the revolutionary aspect of what we're doing.
Like contactless bank cards, these devices work without an internet connection or electrical power. Once content is generated, be it text, audio, or video, it can be accessed anywhere in the world. In this control room, a cloud platform manages the flow and security of data.
It has happened in the past that some clients lose their objects. They request that their saved information be quickly blocked or deleted. This is also part of the requests we handle here.
Ties, wallets, and bags are the flagship products, in which most clients save links to their websites, social media profiles, or work documents. This events and marketing agency is really excited about the potential of the technology.
And now we're going to do the simulation.
Clearly, USB drives are becoming outdated. Today, much more happens online, and we use cloud services extensively for work.
In just a few months, IotaSo has sold over 1,000 connected products to nearly 250 clients worldwide. They're currently turning out about 100 products per week, but plan on ramping up production soon.
That's it for this edition, but stay tuned to France 24. There's more news coming up next.
France 24, your window on the world.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.